When we get to the New Testament, we see that Jesus becomes God incarnate, God in the flesh, that we can look to in order to see how to live our lives, how we should relate to being within the world. He lives a life that we couldn't live and dies a death that we couldn't die and is raised in a life that we couldn't have done on our own. And then ascended into heaven and is seated in the heavenly places on a throne. And if you turn to Colossians 1:15-20, in my opinion, this is probably the best succinct definition for Jesus is Lord in the Bible. Who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature? For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist, and he is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in everything he might be preeminent. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, making peace by the blood of the cross. That is an awesome passage of Scripture, and something that we should probably memorize. So Jesus is Lord. What does that mean for us? James writes, submit yourself therefore to God to resist the devil, and he will flee from you. What is the therefore? It's an enabling word. It's like saying, if you do this, then you can do that. That means that we have to submit to God in order to be able to resist the devil so that he will flee from us. So if we aren't submitted to God, we can't resist the devil, and he won't flee from us. Works both ways. So that means if you've submitted to the Lord with 70% of your life, but you got 30% secret sin, guess who's coming along for the journey? And guess who you can't fight against? Guess who you don't have power or authority over? See, authority and power over the places of your life is given to something. And if we're submitted to Jesus with the whole of our lives and we didn't hold back our finances, but we were okay with giving him our heart when it comes to anger or lust, but we really liked not giving him our finances, or we really liked not giving him certain pieces or parts of ourselves, someone else has control of that. And that will lead to death or ruin or chaos, as we just talked about. James writes that friendship with the world is enmity with God. Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. You cannot be friends with the world and be submitting to God at the same time. If you have embraced the world and have lust for the things of the world, then you are at enmity or war with God. That's not going to end well, since you can no longer resist the devil.